Hello, Onstage blog. This is my buddy Matt,
And this is Landon.
and we're just here in my bedroom. We haven't looked at these questions because we thought it'd be more interesting to answer them live, so we're going to read them right now and just answer them on the fly.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question is, I'm curious about the musical and would love a more in-depth profile about you and your co-creator.
That's us.
Why
the
did-
show is Life in a Box.
The show is Life in a Box. Why did you decide to write this musical?
Why did we decide to write this musical? Well, actually, okay, funny story. Landon and I went to theater school together at George Brown, and there's this room called the Student Lounge where everybody just has lunch between classes, and it gets quite rambunctious. And one time we were joking around, and we were saying we were going to write a one-act fringe musical called
Life in a
My
Box.
Life in a Box.
Oh, My Life in a Box, right.
It was My Life in a Box, and we were like, we're going to do it. We don't know when, but we're going to do it. And it had a completely different storyline, which is actually, I'm not going to say it because it's pretty good. We might use it one day for another thing.
Yeah.
But then after we graduated...
when we graduated, we both went to the Shaw Festival. And we were there together, and we were roommates, and we had really small parts at the festival that summer, and honestly, we just went a little stir-crazy. We lived by ourselves in a small town, and, we dreamed together. We're best friends, and we're co-creators, and we had, in our living room from our front foyer, sort of a meter and a half by a meter and a half, a breezeway cut out in the wall, and we used to do little tricks behind it, like a frame, and
kind of like
walk
if
downstairs.
This frame right now was a window, and we were in another room. We would just do it for each other.
So I remember us talking about, like, oh, we're so bored here, we want something to do. Maybe let's, like, do a show. We ended up doing a different show, but we still knew it would be pretty cool to, at some point, do a show in a frame like that could also exist as a web series, or would be...
Totally.
Would be theater that was filmable that wouldn't actually change. And then we were both in a production of Peter Pan.
Yeah.
And Matt applied for the Fringe.
Oh my God,
me.
this is what happened. So I was at home with my family one weekend, and my stepdad was like, do you know about the Fringe? And I was like, of course I know about the Fringe. And he was like, well, the applications it says it was like, it's going to be coming up soon. So I was like, my stepdad told me about theater, what to do. Anyway, so I went home, and then on like the last $30 I had available on my visa, I filled out an application form to go to the Fringe, and then like the next 2 days or so, I went to Landon and was like, hey, so I applied for the Fringe. I don't know if we're gonna get it, but if we do you want to make Life in a Box for the first time?
We were like, well, what is that show? And we didn't know. But we figured it'd be something about us. And
and then like the draw happened, and I turned to Landon and was like, okay, so now you need to give me $400 because the entry fee is $800. And Landon was like, what? I don't know about this, man. Are we sure? And I was like, I think so.
But we just sort of rolled with it, we're both, we went to George Brown, we're both actors, and the actor grind is hard, and there's a lot of us, and where you go to the auditions and you book some and you don't others, and then there's a lot of time to go, okay, well, I'm creative and I love the theater and I don't want to stop performing. What else can I do? I know selfishly, I'm a musician and I've write music for musicals, but so often when you're commissioned to write something, you don't just get to write whatever you want like a singer-songwriter would, and I was hungry for something that would allow me to do that, and this was the perfect opportunity to play ourselves, to write really contemporary music, and to have I guess dense enough subject matter that lyrically I could actually flesh things out.
I guess we've been talking a little bit more about the how we built it, but the why we built this story. Why, when we were like, okay, now we're doing it at Fringe, what story should we tell? We were like, okay, let's make a show that we would want to watch no matter what, because theater, is it a dying art form? We don't know, but we studied enough classical theater that sometimes when somebody invites you to go to a show, you're like, okay. So we were like, let's nix that factor so that like Life in a Box, I want to go to that show.
Something really contemporary, and I thought something that would almost, I like to say this show tricks a contemporary audience into observing musical theater. Like, I know when we did it live, I had my brother and his friends and a lot of people who were only interested in the show in terms of the music and it being contemporary music, and in terms of it being contemporary, and in terms of it being about stoner culture and stoner humor. That's an audience of its own that would not go to see classical theater, or wouldn't really go see a Soul Pepper show
or any, because
I think a lot of our audience members weren't even, they saw it more as like they were going to a comedy venue or an event. I don't think they were really aware that like I'm going to see musical theater right now. Which I think is kind of cool.
Totally. So like the contemporary music aspect, and then we were like, okay, it's also got to be fun for us to perform. And so we were like, what would be the most fun thing for us to do? We were like, okay, we could play ourselves. And then that led us to the idea of like, if we're playing ourselves, then we're probably going to be doing this story forever. Like, when people, you know how people put a one-man show and they do it everywhere around the world? We were like, we're going to be doing that circuit maybe. And we were like, but it's not going to be cool for two old men to be doing this story. So we were like, we have to make it episodic so that we can tell this no matter where we are in our career point. So say we book something and we're separated for a really long time. We come back together and we're like, now we're doing episode 7. We can pick up where we left off, but as we are now.
Yeah, the plot and the characters can grow as we grow in our actual lives.
And we've given ourselves kind of a beautiful opportunity and experience and challenge because we don't know where it's going, but we know who we are as people from day to day. And so that's where the story comes from. So we kind of just get to really like pull from that, which is kind of another cool thing about this show.
And also what's fun is that I lost my train of thought.
Oh no.
What's the next question?
Yeah, we've been talking about this.
That was why did you decide to write this musical? Oh, I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
Coming from a classical theater background, as much as I think that is important storytelling and such a great way to train, I also just think about myself and what I like to watch and what you like to watch, and so much of it is cartoons, adult cartoons, things like Family Guy, Final Space we love Adventure Time, and we sort of just looked at what do all these series have in common, and there's so many of these dynamic duos, musical aspects.
My God, yeah.
And Rick and Morty we're huge fans of, and we love the time travel elements. We're both just big time travel nerds and into those kinds of theories, fictional or not, and the kind of place where science and fiction and conspiracies kind of overlap. We're really interested in asking those questions, and this show allows us to do it, and it also opens up the whole multiverse theory. And so I feel like we've created a world for ourselves where like anything can happen, like Family Guy. We have these characters that can just go into a million different scenarios through reality or through time and space. So I think it's something that has longevity for us. Knock on wood.
Knock on something.
So the next question, what do you think? Do we answer that question?
I think it's 7 minutes in. We answered that question.
Okay. So why did you decide to write this musical? Why is it important to you? What topics did you delve into? Okay, so we talked a lot about that already.
Yeah, but I'd say, okay, so the main topics. One of the conspiracy theories that we were looking at in terms of like global destruction was a solar flare, which we say in the show, but I'll explain it really quickly. It's just like when the sun burps, like a really big burp, and then it whiplashes the earth, and that has huge effects, like it knocks out radios, internet. We don't really know. The last one that happened, we didn't have a lot of infrastructure, so we were like, is this the next thing that's going to happen? And we knew it was a far-fetched idea, but we were like, let's take a long shot. Because if this happens, and we've written a show about it, maybe it will give some validity to it, or I don't know, we'll seem crazy, whatever. But we were like, who knows? It's also a great storyline. The fact that we're now quarantined inside is kind of crazy in a topical way. We're like, whoa, okay.
And in terms of like what topics we delve into, like, all of what Matt just said.
On like a context level.
But yeah, and then the next question is why this musical now? And so I'll sort of blend those two answers together.
Oh, perfect.
Just that so much theater today, there's a lot of amazing stuff happening. A lot of it is very intellectual. A lot of theater is political, but then I also just think of young contemporary people and things like adult cartoons and what they watch. And as much as there is I don't really think theater should anything. I think theater can all different kinds of things. And I thought the best way I could give to it is just something that's just purely entertainment, purely joy, purely distraction from people. You know, you got a shitty job or whatever. We're not presenting something that's reminding you of how shitty the world is. We're distracting you from maybe you had a shitty day or whatever, and it's just purely a distraction, and it's a reminder to relax. That's where there's so much marijuana usage in the show, and I've said this before that when I talk about marijuana, it's always about promoting peace and positivity. The show promotes friendship in a big way, and
optimism,
I just know
and like trying to look on the brighter side of things.
Yeah, and audience members leave feeling really good, and I think that is making people feel good is a good cause, and so I like that this show can do that for people. Just make people feel really warm.
And selfishly, I mean, it makes us feel great to know that we make other people feel good. I mean, that's why at the end of our live streams that we've been doing, how we adapted to this new medium, we've been telling good news stories, because we're like, although our story is fictional, we want to just prove that there are good things happening in the world, and like, if you focus on the brighter side,
there's always something positive to look at. Even if you got to look really hard for it, it's there somewhere.
Yeah, and that's sort of true to our friendship. That's sort of like how we've kept each other going and working with each other year after year after year, and getting stronger and better and more galvanized as a team, because it's kind of like when Landon has a bad day, I'm there to champion him, and vice versa. Even when we're performing, like if I make a mistake, you know,
there have been so many times we've been on stage together so many times, and we're both getting ready to go on stage, and I'm panicking, and you're the one going, dude, it's okay, we can do it, and vice versa. We've both seen the best and the worst of each other. We've seen each other freak out. We've seen each other, but then conquer the fear too. Like, we've just been through some really intense moments performing this really difficult show together. It started back at the Toronto 2018 Toronto Fringe Festival. And it was the first 2 episodes. It was an hour long, and then when we moved over to Bad Hats, we did episodes 1, 2, and 3. So it was an hour and a half full musical with 9 songs, and it's just the 2 of us operating everything in the box.
With non-stop rapid dialogue. And there was no instrumentation. It was like...
It was just tiring physically, vocally.
It's the hardest thing we've ever done.
Yeah. So yeah, it's important to me, I guess, because it makes people feel good, and because it's so fun to perform. And because this career is a grind, but this is a grind I don't mind grinding at.
No. And it's also the really fun thing about this show is, like, even on days when you are exhausted, A, you're exhausted making your own art, and B, you get to play yourself, or a heightened version of yourself anyway, so even your default choices are authentic to the role. You just have to kind of surrender to it and be like, I am Matthew, hear me roar. Here is Landon, and like go. Yeah. It's a
good exercise in just being who you are. So the next one is why this musical now? How does the virtual format challenge or enhance this experience? Yeah, there was no plan to do it now because we're all in quarantine and self-isolation, and we happen to be roommates. Like there are so many people who. It's such a privilege that we get to continue to flex these muscles because we just happen to live together.
When we wrote this story, I was on road touring with a show, and Landon was you were writing music for other shows. Yeah. We weren't living together at all. It was only through the span of the years we've worked on the show that we've moved in together, and like in a basement apartment of all places. So like story elements have come true from the script.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think... Why this musical now?
Because it's really good.
And circumstance, it's honestly this wasn't a pre-planned thing, but everybody's at home and people are struggling with exactly what Matt and Landon in the fictional Life in a Box struggle with, that they're stuck in their basement apartment and have nothing to do and can't do anything.
Totally. And let's be honest, right now, how many two-hander musicals are there that men of our age and type could actually do together? Nothing. So at this point in our career, why this show? Why now? Because it's perfect
because we
for
can,
us.
And there's truly nothing else to do. We're stuck in a basement, but this is something that we have, and it's something that even in this crazy weird time is bringing a lot of people joy. We've had. We're trying to hit the 300 mark. We haven't quite yet, but in terms of views for episodes 1.5, and we hope it grows. And not that we want this self-isolation thing to go on forever, but we're going to keep doing this to keep ourselves sane and to hopefully keep some other people sane until we can go back to our regular lives.
And to add on to that question, how does the virtual format challenge or enhance the experience?
Well, what's good about that is we kind of intended from the beginning with this show that it was going to be TV, on stage, or something like it's a hybrid of film and stage, and that's why we did the whole show in a box anyway, with the intention of filming it and seeing no difference. So that's just a fluke that we came up with this idea
just perfect.
2 years ago, and it just works on Instagram Live. Instagram Live, I don't even know if that was a thing 2 years ago. Maybe it was, but I didn't know about
like,
it
we
anyway.
Always, like, we tried... I guess 2 years ago now, if it's 2018, to film a YouTube video. It may be out there somewhere. You can probably find it. It's always away. Us from the past. And we just didn't know what we wanted to be yet. We were trying to build a frame within the frame rather than letting the frame be it. And yeah, now that we've had time to just sort of sit in it, challenge it, and see what audiences respond to, it's way easier in this medium to know what we're trying to deliver. Because if we had never had that and we were just like shooting darts at a board without knowing what an audience wants or likes, it would probably be impossible.
Did you talk about mirrors?
No, not yet.
So when we first started rehearsing the show, Matt's very physical, and he helps invent a lot of the staging and tells me where to go. And he always said, I wish we had a mirror, because we had this frame, but it was impossible to know if our illusion sold. And we started rehearsal for this thing, and we were like, oh my God, dude, we can see ourselves the whole time, the whole show. So we always know, because when we do it live, where we are in the frame changes for every audience member depending on their vantage point and how high up they are. But now in this medium, what's really nice is it's as if everybody watching is in a front row center seat, and we can really keep an eye on when our illusions are selling and when they aren't and stuff like that. Is it selling? Anyway,
that's selling.
We can just keep an eye on that.
Like
so we're getting good at figuring out this space and what to do. The second last question is, what was your journey from Fringe to Bad Hats like?
Fringe to Bad Hats?
Big production upgrade.
Yeah, big production upgrade. We got
finally.
A dramaturge on the script, Nicola Atkinson, and Fiona Sauter, the director, also gave some input on sort of how she saw it developing and growing.
The whole thing really tightened. The script tightened. We cut some fat out. There was some new music added.
Although, you want to know what's funny is when we got on our feet, after we had done a lot of work on the script, we'd realized that there was something like authentic in the lower, sort of like high octane Fringe version we had done, where what worked on the page doesn't work in the box sometimes. So we ended up doing like a lot of edited versions come in.
And the show is a big improv element because it is ourselves, and we're good at just sort of doing the improvising jamming thing too. So there's definitely a script and we memorize our lines, but we also like jazz ad-lib and add a verse or whatever every once in a while because it's good.
But the episodes coming up about time travel, and you'll just see the multi-universes we get into. There have been lengthy discussions about the logic and the story and what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what's a possibility. So that dramaturgically has been sorted out.
The second last question, so what came first, music or lyrics? I guess that's for me. When I write, well, first of all, Matt and I, we like to say story by Matthew and Landon, music by Landon, and book by Matthew. So really when we come up with like a plot, we figure out how the thing's going to go, we sort of go, okay, which part should be a scene, which part would make a good song, and then we kind of go, okay,
sometimes
go do your thing.
If I'm writing a script and I get to a moment and I'm like, you know, this could be a freaking scene, but nobody would want to watch it. I don't even want to write it. That's the point.
And then you'll go,
it's
okay,
like, Landon, can you make that a song? And Landon's like, yeah. And it's like, this, and then I'll write the script after the song. Just literally put in the script, song happens. And then I go, where should the song take us to? It needs to get us to here. And then I'll start writing. And then I'll go to Landon and be like, okay, I think we need a song that gets us from A to B, like that. And Landon's like, on it, got it. And then he comes up with this gem that makes one of the worst moments one of the best moments, and it's like, perfect.
Yeah, thanks, man. But yeah, so it's definitely a collaboration, and we just clarify what the plot points are going to be, and then we go. And so when I write music, it actually comes out of me differently every time. Sometimes it starts with lyrics. A lot of times it starts with suggestions of just plot points that I know.
Sometimes it is
what they
pieces
need
of
to
the
say.
text. Sometimes you're like,
a lot of
Matt,
times it's just your text.
I'm going to take this line, and I think it will work.
And finding and building rhymes
like,
in.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And then sometimes, it is, like, definitely in the last episode, I think I'm starting to feel like everything is okay. That was just an old voice note on my phone that was, na 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 na. And, what's great about having a writing partner is you end up with subject matter that I otherwise wouldn't have, and I go, okay, I can just take this and musicalize it somehow. But my writing, it happens different. I don't really have a model. It kind of just happens differently every time. last question. Any plans to license this out so that it can be performed everywhere?
Oh my god. Okay, we have talked about how cool it would be to license it out to other languages and other countries. I think right now...
I think we have to be the North American Matt and Landon.
Exactly.
But I think if it were worldwide, there'd be other Matt and
Or,
Landons.
like, if people wanted to turn it into sign language or even Dothraki or freaking Star Trek, like, anything, I'd be down. But to work with our brand as it is, I'd love to see it in a multi-dimensional format where other people could be like, but I watched that episode with these guys. We'd be like, that was a different dimension, yo. You know what I mean? Something.
Yeah.
But one day, totally, I would love
that
to
too.
see other people take it on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'd be weird to see.
I'm like less interested in it going on like the Canadian regional theater route and just other young guys just playing it with our script and being Matthew and Landon. But definitely I would love to go to Korea and see Life in a Box and these two dudes with different names in Korean.
They do it so much
or
better.
in Italy, you know, or in France or whatever, and they're just
Spain,
two people.
Mexico.
Their names could be whatever, but the story's the same and they're doing it. But I think we gotta be the North American Matt and Landons. Don't you think?
I do, at least for now. But one day...
But who knows, you know, give us a couple $1 million, I'll say yes to a lot.
I think we should definitely license the music and get that out because people should sing these songs, that's for sure. They're really fun and, like, similar to not being many parts for two guys like us. There aren't many songs for two voices like ours, but a lot of guys have them. I'd say. Not as nice as Landon's, though.
You sound great.
Thanks, man.
We're great.
We're all right.
Okay, I think that's it. This is a 21-minute video. I hope that answered your questions. I hope this is useful. Do with it.
Yeah, thanks
however
for
you see
reaching
fit.
out, though.
Bye.
Bye.